So, for example, before joining IGM, I did not realize that there were 40 million people in slavery right now, today. So more than any other time in history.
Actively in slavery.
Actively in slavery right now, like 40 million, about the population of Canada. Right, this huge number. That's right now more than any other time in history. Yeah, huge.
There's 2 million people in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, maybe that's a helpful way to put that. Like crazy. It's I was about to do the maths there. 20 times bigger than that. Yeah, so huge, but again, very very hidden. I suppose I didn't really realize how many different forms it takes. So, from people forced to work in brick kilns or on fishing boats to children being trafficked for sexual exploitation, either in person or online, and I guess. What I didn't realize, maybe to put that another way, is probably by the time we finish doing this podcast today, another 60 children will be sold into slavery. That's like the size of the problem that we're dealing with today. And I really didn't realize that until I was right in the middle of being a part of IGM. So it's just a wee bit more detail about how we operate as an organisation. So we collaborate, we work with local authorities who are in these different countries, who are on the ground, and that really affects the approach that we take for combating different types of slavery. And I want to make it really clear that IGM, we're this big organisation, but we don't fly into all these countries with like a Superman cape on, being like, right, out of the way, local enforcements, out of the way, local police, we've got it, IGM, we're the, the lawyers that
Ben
do
was
this.
saying, well, how does he fight it?
Does he fight it with a rifle or with a GoFundMe?
Right, right. But and that's it. It's the key thing is us coming in, hopefully trying to leverage what we have to train and equip police to make sure that they realize this is a really important thing to tackle. And so it's very much we work with people. It's a partner. Right. It's not IGM coming in. In fact, if we do our job really well, IGM does not need to exist anymore. We want it to be in such a place where the police, the local authorities, they are equipped in those countries to make sure slavery doesn't happen.
It's like a booster,
yeah, 100%. Okay. We want to catalyze it. We want to use the resources and make things happen.
Yeah, it's a very healthy thing to hear from any spokesperson from a charity, that the goal of the charity is they don't want to exist. Yeah. That's a very
and I suppose sadly, like, that's probably
all charities charities should obviously have that mindset.
Yeah, and so as well as doing that, I suppose we are working with the police to actually so we do on the ground rescue, so rescuing people, identifying people who are in slavery, working behind the scenes, and hopefully eventually then going in and getting them out of there. That's one part of it. The part I've definitely become really passionate about is that point after the rescue. It's the aftercare part. So someone who's gone through years and years of trauma and exploitation, they've got so much they've got to work through. And so we partner with local aftercare organizations who will journey with someone, who will get them back into education, who will just whatever needs that they need, they will journey with them for what length of time that takes,
stuff like that,
so that's
how long are people usually slaves for? Like, are they usually brought in from a young age, or how is it?
I mean,
is it just random
I mean, it's all spectrums. I mean, we've seen cases where it's been someone for a few months, and we've seen cases where it's literally slavery's been passed down from generation to generation to generation. So it's it's really really varied for sure.
Crazy. And how you said you work with the local authorities and stuff, how does corruption come into play with that?
Yeah. So I guess corruption in local governments is one of the big reasons that someone finds themselves in slavery today. I'm trying to think of a helpful example of this. So I guess we've just seen so many cases where the rich look out for the rich, and it's the ones who are already in poverty, the ones who are already vulnerable, they're the ones who end up getting trafficked. And so, as I said, we work with people primarily, in fact everyone we work with, they're in poverty, so they're already really vulnerable people. And so in these places where the laws are there, and this is the interesting thing, in all these countries around the world, the laws are there. Slavery is illegal in 99% of these countries. But the one thing that isn't happening is the laws are not enforced. So the laws are there, but the laws are not enforced. And this is, as you rightly said, due to corrupt governments. But there's a whole pile of reasons that someone could end up in slavery. It's so much more complex than just this one sentence. It could just
be one person in the office to just chuck out a file. That's what corruption is. It's a tiny little thing that can be in the heart of someone, or it could be a group of people in a bigger organization. It's hard to tackle that, but that's not the important thing. The important thing is that somebody is tackling it, and that's what people need to understand. This is a huge thing, clearly, as you say. 40 million You know, people need to hear about this.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point too, because we can look at that and go 40 million. Oh my goodness! Like, how are you even going to make a dent in this? It's this big, massive obstacle, and I can feel really almost paralyzing in some ways. Like, why would I even bother doing something about it? But I think we've got to be sharing, and even this podcast is a wonderful way of doing that. We've got to be sharing these stories of hope that we've seen 66,000 people rescued. In fact, IGM we're aiming towards a 2030 vision of protecting 500 million, not a million, 500 million people. That's what we're hoping to protect, it so that they never even encounter everyday violence or end up in slavery.
How would you do that?
Yes, that's the question.
Oh, sorry, that's probably not.
Well, that's the question we're all aiming towards.
5 words. How do you do it?
5 words. Yeah, I guess just all our resources, all our strategy.
End slavery in these 3 steps.
5 points.
If you guys could tell us in 5 words, like that's what. But I suppose everything we're trying to do, it's strategically. How do we set up somewhere or an office in this certain country where by setting it up there, that is just the most strategic place to help the people in that area. That's going to drive us towards that. So yeah, there's a lot of like really smart people who are working on how do we do that really well. So we're just a little part in the process of that.
I'm sure.
Do you use sort of the same sort of obviously you're going to have to tailor your plans to each individual place and culture and region, but do you follow like a general step? This is roughly the plan. Like, we set up a place here, try and get influence, spread the word, or are there some places that are like so completely different that one strategy would not work and you have to do a completely different strategy?
Yeah, really good question. I think the really cool thing we found is at IGM, so it's been going for near 25 years now, so still actually a really young organization, and it's been really exciting just to see the growth in that too. But we have found over those years there has been this amazing model, kind of like 4 parts to it that just seems to work quite well in tackling these issues, even when they're in quite a lot of different contexts. So the first one, which I've kind of mentioned, is we want to be an organization that really tries to rescue and restore individuals. Okay, so that's like that. That's almost like a quite a clear part of it. We want to actually rescue the people and stop it from happening and restore them as well. The second part is we try to bring criminals to justice. So this is a really important point, because yes, you can rescue one person, but if a criminal who's doing and as a perpetrator of these crimes,
prevent it.
Well, if they get put behind bars, that could equate to 100 people who are being trafficked. So by putting that one person behind bars, you're actually protecting 100 people. So there's that part to it as well. We also want to catalyze other resources around the world too. So organizations, corporates, businesses, supply chains. How can we involve all these different organizations to go, what do your so for example, maybe like a big supermarket, like their supply chains, we'll go, have you guys thought about, or do you want to partner, and what does this look like for the people involved in making your products,
so making it like not even economically valid for the slavery. So like, say if like the supply chain, like, we're not going to buy your stuff anymore, and then they don't really have as much an incentive to like do that. Is that what you mean? Yeah,
well, I suppose it's more so we want to work with them. So maybe, for example, an organization that is, or a big supermarket that's working with, they supply coffee. We'll want to work with them and go, like, can we think about where do you get your coffee from, and the supply chains that's involved with, but more making them think about it a little bit too. But actually, if you can get a big organization like that on board to say, we want to be a company that is very much against modern day slavery, they're going to start thinking about that and putting things into place so that hopefully through them they're actually protecting individuals as well. So it's getting this whole thing is about getting everyone on board. What's your part? What have you got to use? What's in your hands that you have to play with? And I guess the final part then too is catalyzing the movement. So that's probably like the likes of us. What we're doing right now is a part of that model. It's talking about it. It's raising awareness. It's hopefully some people listening, their hearts are just beating a little bit faster, going, I'm really passionate about this. What can I do? And maybe we'll like chat about that later too. But it's getting the word out, raising awareness, and seeing how everyone can play their part in this.